today when we talk about complex math equations, I will show you some of the things that we have to keep in mind when you do when we convert these equations into math. So let's take an example. Couple of things to remember. In math, you can say in math you can say x plus y equal to z. That's a very valid. And I had told you in Python this is not accepted. Python, this you need to write as z equal to x plus y. Your expression is always on the right side, and left side usually you have the output of this expression going into single variable. Okay, so you always say z equal to x plus y. Second thing is in math you can say 5a equal to 6b. Same thing if you have to write it in Python, you will always isolate your variable on the left side. You will say a equal to 6b divided by 5. If you divide both sides by 5 in math, and this will cancel out, and goal is to isolate your variable on the left side. Isolate your variable. All right, isolate your output variable where you want to store the data. Output variable on the left. That's rule number 2. Any question?
For the 6b, wouldn't it be 6 times b, like with the asterisk?
Coming to that, yes, right, good catch. So one is this is one rule, this is second rule, and third rule what I was gonna tell you, and thank you for pointing it out. You do not assume that it's a 6b. You always say it is 6 multiplied by b divided by 6. You always write this. You do not assume that multiplication is present. In algebra, it's okay to assume, but not in programming. The processor needs to know very clearly what operation it has to perform. Okay. Having said that, let's take a quick look at one of the functions that we would like to convert. We'll say x equal to 1 over 10 plus z, and we'll say 27. Right. I'm gonna write quickly and ask one of you whether this is a valid way of writing in Python. Okay. And let me move it to the right side. Okay. So can I write x equal to 1 star 27 10 plus z? Mihika, is this the valid way of writing? Mihika, what do you think? Can I write 1 multiplied by 27 divided by 10 plus z? Can I do that?
You have to put the parentheses.
Parentheses on
10 plus z.
Awesome, right? You need to parentheses because this changes the meaning. If I don't put parentheses, I am basically saying 1 multiplied by 27 divided by 10 plus z, right? This is not what we are looking for. This equation is not same as what we saw here, right? Cool. Can I also write like, I mean, you already got it actually, but I will write one more version. And this is for Akarsh. Okay. Can I say x equal to 1 over 10 plus z multiplied by 27? Akash? Akash, I can't hear you.
No, you can't do it like that. Sorry, I was muted. But you can't do it like that.
So what's wrong here?
So in the brackets it's 1/10 plus z. It's not like because the z isn't applying to the denominator 10. So.
Right. So where should I apply? Where should I put my parentheses?
Not sure where, but oh, okay. Yeah, there. Yeah, okay.
Right. See, and that is my next thing to teach you or tell you. Right. Always, anytime you are in doubt, use parentheses. That's my important takeaway from this class is to use parentheses. Why? Because parentheses, by rule of PEMDAS, you have seen in math or algebra, and even in parentheses takes precedence over exponent or multiplication, division, addition, or subtraction. So by putting parentheses, you are forcing Python to first. Correct? So take another example. I say I'm gonna write this example, and I'll okay. I say y equal to 10x minus 10 minus z by 4 over 4, okay, divided by 4. So when you say 10x minus 10 minus z divided by 4, right, the first thing what we should do is to split, and especially when it is a complex, is to think in terms of parentheses. So this is be 1 unit, so we just put a parenthesis around this. Second thing is this whole thing should be another parenthesis. Actually, I should use it a different color so that you can see. And I would say this one. Right? This another parenthesis. So when you write this, you say 10x minus parenthesis, and inside I'll say one parenthesis 10 z divided by. So when you use parentheses wisely, you will not go wrong. So anytime in doubt, parentheses. Second is when you are using parentheses, since you may end up using lot many, always count your left parenthesis matching with the right one. So how many do we have on the left side? We have 1 and we have 2. So we should have 1 here. Just a second, somebody is bothering me. Okay, so when you see like this, you notice I missed the second parenthesis here, right? I say one parenthesis, second parenthesis, but this parenthesis is missing. Not really. I have this parenthesis here and I have this parenthesis here. Because of this space, for a minute I thought it's missing parenthesis. So I have 1, 2. So I have 1, 2. So you need to have the matching parentheses. The two things we learned here: identify the need of parentheses and put it accordingly. And also now we are gonna, and also we little bit we understood that how to split into smaller pieces. And next example that I'll give you, you will see this more in action. Let's write a really complex one. I'm gonna put something random here this time. I'm saying y equal to 5 3x square plus 5x plus 2 divided by say 7w minus 1z minus z whole divided by 4 3 plus x divided by 7. Right? This is interesting because now you can see, and of course this is 5. No, I don't write good 5. So this is 5 multiplied by. So this is a complex one. You have to, even if you start with parentheses, it will be too many parentheses. So not easy to manage. So let's divide and rule. Okay, divide and conquer, what we call it. So what we will do is I'll create, usually the way I do it is I look at it as, pieces, right? So first piece could be this blue, and then second piece could be this one. This side I will have maybe the one as this piece, then we'll have second as this piece, then we'll have this as a whole piece, right? And then the whole thing in a bigger box. It's like box inside a box. Okay, this is how we are going to divide and conquer. Now, what I mean by divide and conquer is, we will say first, let's focus on this piece, the inner box. Yeah, this green box, I'm drawing it here, green box, and we will say, let's say temp1, a variable temp1 equal to 3 plus x. We'll create another variable called temp2, and these all are my intermediate variables that I will compute, because I'm dividing it, and at the end I will stitch together. So I'll say 2 equal to 4 multiplied by 1, right? Temp1 parenthesis divided by 7. So I took this temp2. Similarly, I will focus this part. I will say temp3 equal to 7 multiplied by w minus 1 over z, but I put it parentheses. If I'm put here also in parentheses. So this is my temp3, so I took care of this. Now let's focus on temp4. My temp4 is gonna be, I'll put it in the black here. This one.
Excuse me?
Yep.
I was just wondering, so you're basically just kind of splitting up the value of y into different variables so it's easier to solve, right?
Correct. And then finally we'll stick back.
Okay, just making sure that I had the right thing.
Yes. So let's call this, the inner one will call this as temp1. This one will call it as temp2. This one will call it as temp3, right? This one will call it as temp4. So if assuming this is how you will convert temp4. Temp4 will be 3x power 2 plus 5 multiplied by x plus 2. So I got temp4. Now if you y is going to be equal to 5 and temp4, my temp4 variable, which is nothing but my intermediate calculation, temp divided by temp3. This was temp3 divided by temp3 parenthesis minus z, and then everything into parenthesis divided by temp2, right? So now, as you can see, I first identified into smaller pieces, created multiple intermediate variables to calculate values like temp1, temp2, temp3, temp4, and then stitch it back to calculate y. That way you don't have a confusion of parentheses. If you just try to convert into one shot, you will have too many left parentheses and too many right parentheses. You may lose track of things, and you don't have to do this. So keep it simple. Always identify temp1 and temp2. Second benefit of this is, suppose this whole block temp3 was also repeated somewhere at the bottom here. Then by calculating temp3, now you can use that variable somewhere else also, because the same block was repeated at the bottom. We'll take an example, and something similar example, but this time I'm going to repeat it. That way my variable is repeated at the another place. Okay. So this example, when I say y equal to, I'll say 2 a plus b square divided by a plus b cube. I'm just giving an example. I know you can cancel it out now. Okay, but let's say I'm not canceling it out. So what I will do is I'll say temp1 equal to a plus b, and now this whole thing becomes y equal to 2 multiplied by temp1 power 2 exponent 2 divided by temp1 exponent 3, right? I mean, you can always cancel it, but if you don't cancel, I'm just giving an example. You can see I calculated temp1 here, and this whole thing looks like now 2 temp square divided by temp cube. This is how actually it is. And now you can, reuse it. But imagine if this is not the case, and this one, I'm just giving an example, and I say this one is plus z cube. Then you will say temp plus z cube. This is pretty straightforward math, but if you look at it, it's common sense to some extent, but it's a technique that you use it when you see a complex equation split into smaller pieces. What is key here is to observe it. Observe and find the pattern. Observe which one is going to be your temp 1, which one is going to be your temp 2, or temp 3, temp 4, whatever you call it, or T1, T2, T3. You can give any variable name as long as it's valid. And then accordingly, you split this whole thing into smaller pieces. Make sense? Anyone has a question? All good? So I'll do a quick repeat. Number one, when you're solving a complex mathematical equations into Python, first thing is do not assume multiplication. You don't say 5a, you always say 5 multiplied by a. Second thing is your variable has to be on the left side. You always say z equal to a plus b. You never say a plus b equal to z. If you have to find b, you will convert and isolate b and you say z minus a. This is your responsibility to make sure that you isolate your variable on the left side. Every computation, every calculation has to be on the right side. Rule number 3, use parentheses. You want to make sure that anytime in confusion, you use parentheses so that you force Python to use the PEMDAS rule. Number 4, you identify when it is really complex, identify the pieces, split, create intermediate variables like this, and then solve the equation. And you will have a lot of practice. It's very easy as long as you pay attention to these programs. Okay. I will pause. Are there any questions? And of course, once you split into smaller pieces, then you have to stitch it back to create it back the original equation. Okay.